The Scarlet Knights coming off a big road win in the Big Ten. Welcome, everybody, to Week 7 of the Rutgers Football Podcast. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand with you. So glad you could join us. And as always, the Rutgers Football Podcast is presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Rutgers Athletics. Eric, that was a terrific win this past week in West Lafayette, Indiana, over Purdue, 37-30. A game in which Rutgers trailed at the half, 23-13. What jumped out to you the most? What was most impressive about the way they were able to come back and win that game?
The grittiness, the never giving up, the being able to go into halftime and make adjustments and then coming out in the second half and executing those adjustments is crazy because the Scarlet Knights get the ball, they go down the field, they make a great play with Johnny Langan and Cameron Adams, they score. Boom, Purdue comes right back and scores again. It easily could have deflated the balloon right then and there. But the next kickoff, after that kickoff by Cruikshank for a touchdown, things just seemed to change. And then Rutgers finally opposed their will on another opponent for a quarter and a half, and it was so impressive to see.
Let's talk about that because they really did take control. That's a 9.5-minute drive that they put together. And more than anything, just being as dominant physically as they were up front, and then also, taking advantage when Purdue lost Barnes to targeting, they were able to really run the football very effectively. Eric, what does that do for the mentality of players when they know they are imposing their will?
Oh, you should have all the confidence in the world after that. Watching the film, I know it's never as bad as you think it is. It's never as great as you think it is. But watching the film, they did a hell of a job, that offensive line, and they should pat themselves on the back because they literally were just moving the pile. And Johnny Langan, he's just such a big body. He's getting 4, 5, 6 yards a clip, and then once he makes contact, it's not like he's going down. He's running and scrapping and clawing, and that's the type of football that you like to see, old school Big Ten football, where you literally scrapped out a victory, and they knew what was coming. They knew what was coming, Chris. They weren't able to stop it.
Let's talk about the quarterback position. With Noah Vedral on the sidelines, you had Art Sitkowski get the start, and you had Langan continuing in the role that he has excelled in all season long. These are two guys, Eric, that, didn't necessarily have to stick around when there was a coaching change. But what I love about what's happened here is that, Coach Schiano, Coach Gleason, Coach Smith, they have found ways to really tailor what they do around the strengths of their players, and boy, has that paid off in a big way.
Oh, it's paid off huge, All week long, we think Noah's starting. Even me, being as close to the program I am, thought it was Noah going out there, and then all of a sudden you get hit with Art, and Rutgers still goes out there, and they really, in the first 2-3 drives, they didn't miss a beat. Those first 15 plays, they were able to execute, and be able to put points on the board, touchdowns on the board, scoring in the red zone. It was very impressive. Purdue started to figure out the offense a little bit. They get the lead, but going into half, now Rutgers makes an adjustment, and they see what's working with Johnny Langan. And then you like you said, you play to your strengths. You run it and run it and run it again until they can stop it. And Purdue was not able to stop it, especially after Barnes went out. So just to see the adjustments at half, those first 15 plays that they executed on offense from Gleason that he designed was just perfect. And then from there, you see how they just were able to show their personality a little bit that Coach Schiano has instilled in them and fight all the way to the end and kept chopping.
So Rutgers knocks off Purdue, and we're at the point in the year where you're 6 games in, and normally this would be the midway point, but it's not. And this is a point of the year also where the physicality of the game and the mental toll that it can take, you would think this is a time of year where that might start to catch up with you. So tell me, from a player standpoint, what are you feeling mid-season right now?
You're definitely feeling sore, the aches and pains, and this is when you have to, dedicate extra time in that training room, in the cold tub. Even though not everyone likes that cold tub, you got to get in it. Those extra lifts that you need to get in there. It's a grind, it's a hustle. But Coach Schiano and the staff just preach it so much to you that it just becomes normal. Like every meeting that you have, make sure you're taking care of your business. If you need those extra treatments, schedule it. You better show up there. You better be on time. If you need an extra weight room session, you're scheduled to do it. It's just a mentality that, I have to push through this. This is what I need to do in order to keep myself healthy, keep myself strong. I may be aching, I may be in pain, but at the end of the day, I'll feel better. And on Saturday, I'll go out there and be, the best percentage I can be this long into the season. But it's just a grind each and every day.
Well, this is now a situation where you have to get a boost after the win. You had a couple of games that were right there. You weren't able to quite get over the hump, and now you do. And now moving forward, look, you always want to play well against a team like Penn State, being, from right next door. And it's a team that, Rutgers, Coach Schiano I thought was interesting this week, said, we don't have a rivalry with Penn State because we haven't done anything to make this a rivalry yet. And I thought that was interesting and a very honest answer. You can't just create these things. So when you have an opportunity like this, though, there does have to be a little extra adrenaline, doesn't there?
There's definitely extra adrenaline, momentum. Just that every day you're going out to practice and you're seeing what they do, you just have that extra thing in the back. But I totally agree with him. Until you can win these games and, have those games that might go into overtime or triple overtime like Michigan, and it starts, to tilt back and forth between both teams, that's when it becomes a rivalry. But it honestly can. It's at that point in time now. And we all know there's huge recruiting implications that come between Rutgers and Penn State. I know the players, they don't focus on that. But the coaching staff, that's what they're thinking about when they're done with the players now. You want to win these games. You want to show what you're about, what you're building here. I totally believe that Coach Schiano and his team, they'll be ready for Penn State. I know Penn State might be down right now, but they're coming off of a big win versus Michigan on the road. They're going to be on their high horses, and you know James Franklin, what he's trying to do to Rutgers in the past by embarrassing them. It's the same old Rutgers anymore, though. We'll see what happens on Saturday.
Well, we'll talk more about the matchup coming up in just a bit. We'll also visit with senior linebacker Tyshawn Fogg in just a little bit, a guy that's done an awful lot for this program over the last few years. But up next, as usual, we'll talk to the head coach, Greg Schiano. He joins us in a moment on the Rutgers Football Podcast, presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Rutgers Athletics. As always, time to check in with the head coach, Greg Schiano. And today's interview with Coach Schiano is brought to you by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Rutgers Athletics and New Jersey's most comprehensive health system. To learn more, visit rwjbh.org. Let's be healthy together. And Coach, coming off the win the other night, 37-30 over Purdue, your takeaways from that victory, your number one, number two, number three things that you really took out of it that you were really happy with?
I think there's really just a one, and that's that our guys just kept fighting and believing in each other. They chopped away. And what we had talked about was having a full 60-minute chop and maybe longer if necessary. And collectively as a team, we did that. I think all three phases did just what we asked them to do. And, if you can learn to do that, especially on the road, like anything else, every time you do it, you get a little bit better at it. So hopefully we can continue to improve, because it's so hard to stay focused for 3.5 or 4 hours and do your job, right? There's a lot of things out there that can grab your attention. And I was pleased with that.
Coach, was there a point in the game that you really felt was the turning point for your team?
I don't know. I just felt like every time things got a little off track, guys just kept playing hard. And then I guess when we hit the kickoff return to answer the bell, that was really something that, like, I think they were like, look, we're going to finish this thing. And really, when we got to the fourth quarter, and they're one of their best players got ejected for targeting, and we got into early on maybe 4-minute mode. We didn't treat it as 4-minute mode, but we were really running the ball a lot and successfully. And that's how you'd like to finish games, is by imposing your will. So that's what I feel like the guys were able to do, which is huge.
Yeah, what does that do for your team's mentality, specifically guys like your offensive line?
Well, you're only as good as what you put on the next game tape. But I think they should take confidence from the fact that they were able to keep chopping away. Now, it was a different scheme, a different front than we're going to see this week. They were a lot of 3 down. So it's really a lot different, but every scheme has its pluses and minuses. So, but I was proud of the way the guys, like I said, chopped for 60 minutes.
Away from the individual game itself, development of a couple of guys in particular, wanted to ask you about. Number one is a guy that probably has publicly been overshadowed, but when you really look at everything he's done to improve, it's really jumped out, and that is Shamin Jones.
Yeah, I think, Bo's having a monster year. So Shamin in any other setting would, get a lot of attention. But Shamin really has responded. And I'm not going to tell you that at the very beginning when we first started that I would have said, oh, this guy's going to have a really big time year. It's like when Shamin came back from the quarantine, he came back with a mindset that he was on a mission. And it's really fun to watch the way he's progressed.
How about a guy like Brendan Bordner, who had to step in the other day? He moved over from the defensive line. He was working all different places on the line. And now when he gets experience like that, he looks like a guy that can possibly play a few different positions for you and really add some depth.
You're exactly right, Chris. And, he moved over and was working with the first team, then fell back a little bit. And it's a testament to his perseverance because he just kept chopping and learning the position. And he got his chance to start, and he really did a good job. We feel confident that we have another guy that can play in the offensive line now, and that's huge. And, he's relatively young to the position. I think he can continue to get better and better and better. And I think he can be a really, really good lineman. He's extremely strong, extremely.
We've seen that happen with other linemen over the years during your tenure. What's the biggest obstacle, the biggest thing they have to overcome from moving to the defensive side to the offensive side?
Defensively, you play out over your body a lot more. You're getting up the field, and offensively, you have to stay a little bit more centered because you got to react to movements, and you have to be able to pull, and you have to be able to do a bunch of stuff. You have to pass set. So defensive linemen typically, when they move over to the other side of the ball, initially are tipping forward. And as a D lineman, if you can get the guy to tip forward, you can do a lot of things to him in pass rush. You can do things in the run game. So it takes a little while to change gears. But the thing that usually jumps out is when you move a guy from the defensive line to the offensive line, he immediately is one of the best athletes on the offensive line. So that's always a plus. And that athletic ability, once you get a feel for playing the position, then that athletic ability really shines.
Coach, this time of year, you're 6 games into the year, and we know it's been a different season, but from your standpoint, how do you start to handle your team in practice during the week to balance all they've put into the first half of the year physically and as mentally draining as it can be in preparing for the next opponent? Do you have to ease up on the pedal a little bit, or is it just reading the situation?
I think it's reading the situation, Chris. It's different in your first year than in subsequent years. I think as your team grows in your culture and understands your culture inside and out, then you can really kind of have those lines of demarcation where you back off. But we're still establishing our culture and our habits and everything that we're doing. So it's really no time. And again, it might be the best thing for 2020 to do that, but this is bigger than 2020. We have to establish who we are and how we do our business.
But at the same time, the one thing I've really noticed about the older players on this team, the juniors and seniors, is just how much they have really embraced the change, so to speak. And they've been able to be tone setters pretty quickly. So what has that done to help further your message? Guys that have been here, but also have come into this new system and understand, hey, this is different. We've got an opportunity here.
Well, you've heard me say this many times, right? When you take over a job, I really don't like to hear coaches say, when we get our guys, we're going to be, you take the job, those are your guys, right? You took the job. And what we did is we made it very clear, if you're willing to do it, buy into our culture and do it the way we're asking, you are our guys. And at one point we had 140 something guys on the team, and now we have 123. So that tells you some guys have decided, I really don't want to do it. And that usually happens in a program when you come in as a new staff. The thing that I make sure is that they're treated with dignity, and if they don't want to do it, they're continue to be treated with dignity. It's probably not the place for them. So I think we're kind of, it's kind of the fine tuning relationally as you're building this thing. Everybody's understanding each other better and better. And we continue to go through new experiences together. So I think when you do that, you better understand each other. Staff understanding staff understanding players, and vice versa. There's a lot of relationships when you think about a major college football organization, from the video people to the training people to the strength and conditioning people, to the training room. I mean, there's just so many people other than the coaches and players, academic support, right? That I think everybody's getting to know each other and the way we operate. And then as you build a program, it becomes really comfortable for them. The culture becomes what they're used to. And really what happens when you fill the program with 4 years worth of guys that have gone through it, now you got a senior class that's got umpteen times where they've heard it, they've seen it, they've lived it. And that's tradition. To me, when you have human beings passing down how you do things, that's tradition. I know people think tradition is touching a statue or singing a song, and I get it. That's the outward display. But to me, it's about players handing it down to other players. So when you talk about the older guys, I agree with you. I think they've embraced it, and they've done a good job of trying to teach the young guys.
All right, we'll have your questions for Coach Schiano when we return on the Rutgers Football Podcast, presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Rutgers Athletics. Time for your questions for Coach Schiano on the Rutgers Football Podcast. Let's get right to him. Meg wants to know, Coach, it has to be comforting knowing that you can turn to 3 different quarterbacks right now and all can produce for you. So how do you see that situation at the moment?
Well, I was very pleased and proud of of Art and of Johnny. Johnny's been stepping up all year. Art's been waiting patiently for his opportunity, and when he got in there, I thought he did a really good job. It's good to know we have, and I actually think, Cole and Evan also. And Austin Alberici, I love that kid. I mean, he's 5-0, but I'll tell you what, when he gets in scrimmages and stuff, he's dynamic. I mean, he's something. So I think we have some really good guys in the program. We just keep developing. I think Coach Gleason is doing a great job developing the quarterbacks, and we'll just keep developing everybody because, as happened to Noah, guys get bumped. It's a physical league, it's what you call a big boy league. I mean, there's big players out there, and when big people collide, sometimes guys get hurt.
Danny wants to know, Coach, can you ever remember a game in your coaching career where time of possession was over 13 minutes in a quarter?
I can't say that I do. Yeah, that was great. I'll tell you what now. I enjoyed that. That's in this day of high speed football and everything else to possess the ball that long was really fun.
The 9-minute and 38-second drive, by the way, for fans who were curious, longest since 2009. And the season opening drive for Rutgers against Cincinnati, that went 20 plays and over 10 and a half minutes. Coach James wants to know, why is the Big Ten so balanced this season? Do you think it's because of the lack of time to prepare for the year with no spring practice for most schools and no summer camp?
I don't know. It's a very good question. I wish I had an answer. I really don't care. All I care about is our team. Are we getting better? And that's what we talk about every day. If we chop the day, we're going to be a little bit better than when we started the day. And if we can do that, eventually we're going to get pretty good. What gets you is when you have those days where you slide back. And, there could be legitimate reasons, but as I tell them, the world doesn't care about legitimate reasons, right? You get judged on your performance on game day. That's year round we work. for 12 games, and if you do it well enough, you get a 13th. Well, this year it was cut back, as we know, but that's kind of what we're in. We're in that environment. So I like it. I've always loved that. The competition is what makes it great.
All right, Coach, Penn State this week, and they got their first win of the year last week against Michigan. And you mentioned in your press conference, you felt like offensively they were starting to hit their stride. What are you seeing?
Yeah, they're a very talented team. They're playing some young kids, young receivers, young linemen. I know Kirk Schiano is the offensive coordinator, is doing a great job. They know what they want to do. Kirk's a good friend. He's an excellent coach. So it's going to be a struggle. Kirk knows us very well. He was here. He worked with Coach Smith at Minnesota, with Coach Panagos at Minnesota. I mean, we all kind of know each other. Defensively, I think Penn State does a lot. They come at you in a lot of different ways. They're very talented. And special teams, they're very sound. So you say, well, Coach, that's true, but they're 1-5. Well, they're the best 1-5 team in America. I mean, they have some really good players, and they've found some tough ways to lose games, but it sure looked like they had a good win Saturday. And we're going to have our hands full for sure. This is going to be a tough game, and they're well coached. So we got to go out and really play physical and play detailed football.
Looking forward to it at home this week, Coach. Thanks again, and good luck this week.
All right, Chris, thank you.
Back with more in a moment as Eric and I will return on the Rutgers Football Podcast presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Rutgers Athletics. The Rutgers Football Podcast for Penn State Week rolls on. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand joined this week by senior linebacker Tyshawn Fogg, the two-time All-Big Ten academic and 2020 Big Ten Distinguished Scholar. Tyshawn, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm good. Good to see you guys as well.
Well, Ty, just give us a quick sense of what this has been like this season. You've been around this program for a few years. There's definitely been an improved energy around it. As one of the leaders of this team, how have you kind of seen that manifest itself?
It's definitely a huge turnaround. Having Coach Schiano come back and just lead the guys on the way was definitely something special to me. And it's definitely huge. With all this COVID-19 stuff going around, we actually found a way to prosper and chop through it all. Guys is more motivated going out there on the field every single day. They're chopping away at practice. And it's definitely been a huge attitude change of just how we approach the day. So honestly, it's just great to be a part of it, as a senior, just seeing the progress of, Rutgers University and the football program in general. So it's definitely something, excited to be around and just grateful to be around every single day.
And I'd love to know what it was like for you, each player, individually, how you handled, when they say that you're not having a season after you try to go through all the protocols, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, you are having this season, and now getting in a mindset that we're going to have to go through a whole Big Ten season without any out-of-conference games. So what was that like for you?
At first, it was very tough because, guys, of course, wanted to start the season on time and everything, and them going back and forth saying we're playing and we don't. But at the time, we just kept the mindset of we're just going to keep on practicing, just continue to get better, and just focus on the task at hand. But, of course, guys were, anticipating the play and everything. But Coach Schiano did a great job of just keeping guys looking forward and just chopping the moment each and every single day. Then when they announced that the season was back on, everybody was excited and just ready to attack. And I'm just so proud of us, like, as a team, just us coming together and just preparing for this season in a short amount of time we had. At the end of the day, we make things, happen and prepared just as well as anybody would.
And knock on wood, so far, everything has gone relatively smoothly this season as far as COVID. From a player's perspective, just what has this all been like? How difficult has this been as players to handle a situation like this where, boy, you possibly couldn't make it any tougher to get out there and play every week?
Right. It's definitely tough. It's COVID going around during the football season. It's just hard just because of the fans not being in the stadium, as well as you not having the opportunity to see your family as much or at all as guys possibly would. But just for having a love of the game of football and just being around your teammates makes it, it makes it somewhat better. Yeah, we'll love to see our family, and yeah, we'll love to have, those Rutgers fans support us in the stadium. But we all know the sacrifices we need to make in order to move past this, and hopefully next season we can have our fans and Rutgers Nations back with us.
So I love being able to talk to you guys about this because, especially on the defensive side, since I played now with the same coaches that are coaching you guys up, Coach Smith, Schiano, Frazier, what's it like, with Frazier yelling at you to be? I know how the voice is, man. And the Coach Smith getting on you guys. So what is it like, learning from this staff and understanding the defense for you?
Great defensive mind, great guys, great coaches. I love being around Coach Smith, Coach Frazier, and just Coach Schiano and the whole defensive staff in general. Every single day is something different. It's never the same. You're always learning different things as your position or different technique and just learning deeper into the scheme. And I just love being around those guys each and every day. It's a different feel. It never gets old. And it's just something you could pick up and learn something different just to perfect your craft. So once again, I just love those guys. And Coach Frazier, he's my guy. I see him every single day. Me and him have a couple of run-ins. He teaches me stuff. Yeah, he runs me around the field. And, he just forces me to get better. And he's definitely a great mind to be around. I learned so much from him in a short amount of time, they were here.
Senior linebacker Tyshawn Fogg with us. And it's hard to believe that you're a senior already because it feels like just yesterday you were a freshman. And I'm sure it probably feels that way for you too. So how is it different for you as a senior now? How are you different as a person, not just as a player, due to your time at Rutgers?
Right. Honestly, like you said, it went so fast. I remember coming here in 2017, June in the summer. There's a guy that was just, as clueless as any freshman coming in. And I was just looking forward to the senior guys just leading me in the right direction. Now just progressing through the program and just seeing everything from experience standpoint is definitely, it's crazy. And the experience you gain and just the things you learn from the game and just college in general just makes you a better person. Just being here in the Rutgers environment, having, those brothers around you, gaining new brothers, or whatever the case may be, it just makes you different. And just going through and growing up through this program and just growing up around Rutgers football in general, it just transforms you because we had a lot of ups and downs. We have a lot of good moments. We had a lot of bad, but you learn from every single one. And honestly, I'm just grateful to be here each and every day, just playing for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
And what's it like as a leader now with some of these transfers that have come in? You got to know a lot of the guys that were there already, but now these new guys. And if you look at the locker room, looks like Christian fits right in. He's right in the middle of the dance circles and everything, after the victories and stuff. What's it been like now trying to lead those new guys and getting them adapted to the culture as well? I know it's new for you, but still adapting to the culture.
Right. Those new guys came in smoothly. There were a lot of great guys coming in, a lot of Brendan Weiss, Island Burke, he came in as well. Those guys that definitely did a great job adapting to the culture and honestly just following whatever Coach Schiano had set in place and whatever the team was had already established. I know those guys in the locker room, they're definitely great people to be around, great football players as well. So it was just a smooth transition getting those guys in. And as far as the leadership standpoint, they're very respectful guys. We respect each other and we just, bounce ideas off of each other, just continue to grow as young men and football players.
Tyshawn, as we mentioned at the beginning, you're two-time All-Academic Big Ten. You're a distinguished scholar this year. I'd ask you about free time, but it doesn't feel like you have any free time right now. When are you getting a chance right now to just kind of settle in? I know it's got to be a little bit easier as a senior, but just when you become a senior, they're throwing you this curveball.
Exactly. It's definitely been tough. I mean, just going through with academics as well as football during this whole, COVID thing. It's tough because everything is remote, everything is online, which is totally different to what we're accustomed to. But honestly, it's better in a way just because everything is virtual now. You can do work right after practice at the health center or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it was a tough transition, but it was something that you just had to get used to. And quite frankly, now it's becoming a new norm. So it's definitely getting easier, but at the same time, it's different from where we were at before.
And talk about the discipline that you guys have had to show and act out, especially when you guys go on the road. Yeah, so you guys went out early for the Purdue game and had Thanksgiving in a hotel, just making sure that you're being smart, you're wearing your mask, on the plane and just everywhere in general. What's that been like and how you guys been able to adjust to that?
Guys did a great job with that, just with the whole mask thing in general, just buying into what Coach Schiano was telling us. What he always says is that we want to keep the team safe and we just want to make sure the guys are just protecting our inner bubble as a team. Because at the end of the day, if we're disciplined, we wear our masks, sanitize, make sure we have a nice tight bubble, everything's going to be okay. And the guys did a great job buying in and making sure they chopped the whole way through with just keeping their mask on, social distance, and making sure their bubble and everything is safe. So guys been doing a really good job when it comes to precautions with COVID and everything. So we're just going to keep that up all the way through the season.
225 career tackles now. He has really made his impact at Rutgers. Senior linebacker Tyshawn Fogg. Ty, thanks again for the time, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Up next, Eric and I will preview the matchup with Penn State this Saturday. This is the Rutgers Football Podcast, presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Rutgers Athletics. Rutgers and Penn State, Saturday, 12 noon at SHI Stadium. Chris Carlin, Eric LeGrand back to preview the matchup. And first of all, Eric, you've got Penn State coming off their first win of the year, so that during the course of a frustrating year for them, that had to give them a big boost, and they're going to want to keep that rolling this coming week. It's an obvious thing to say, but once you taste victory, it's one of those things where you have to do everything you can to taste it again.
Yeah, you definitely want to repeat it. It's a good feeling. And I was watching that game, and after the game, they had a camera in the tunnel, and you saw the Penn State football players flying through that tunnel screaming victory because it just feels so good. They're hard to come by. Victories aren't easy. It's hard to win in college football. So you can tell that they enjoyed it, and you know that they're going to want that feeling again. And it's going to be a battle for the Scarlet Knights. I know they'll be prepared for it, but it's going to be an old-school slobber-knocking fight, I think.
All right, well, what you saw in watching that game, what do you look at from a Penn State perspective, first of all, offensively, that Rutgers has to be concerned with?
Offensively, they're going to try to run that ball. They found success on the ground versus Michigan defense. But we know Michigan hasn't played, up to their level this year, but they still got athletes over there. They still got great players. They were able to run the ball on them. Rutgers, in the first half and sometimes throughout the whole game, have struggled with the run game a little bit, and they've allowed big plays, as we saw with Purdue, and their offense in that first half. From the very jump, Rutgers is going to have to stay stout on defense, and they're going to have to find a way to be able to stop that run and make Penn State throw the ball. I don't think they're as talented on the outside as they used to be. They have some players, but I feel like they need to be able to stop that run and then rely on the DBs for coverage. And then on the defensive side, I feel like Rutgers, they were able to find trick plays in Purdue's defense, sneak behind it. Penn State's, I feel like, going to be preparing for everything. So sometimes when a team's preparing for all the kits and gadgets and all this stuff, sometimes going basic and running the ball and it be getting down your throat makes you change it a little bit. You're going to okay, now I have to bring that safety down. That's when you can find Shameen Jones and Bo Melton, who have been just absolutely spectacular this season.
I know it's a combination of all of the above, but when you look at the Rutgers defense and stopping the run against Penn State, is physicality the most important aspect of it? Is it technique? I know it's all of them, but do you look at one or two in particular that has to play a big role?
The two is physicality and tackling your man through the ground. We have seen the Scarlet Knights a lot of arm tackles, reaching and diving and not bringing their feet and running through tackles. And the biggest thing I think that the Scarlet Knight defense has to learn, which I know Coach Schiano's putting an emphasis on it, is swarming. They have to get multiple hats to the ball. Guys have to beat their one-on-one blocks, and you have to be able to swarm the ball. So if you see your defensive tackle dive and wrap up a leg, you have to see 2 or 3 guys right there surrounding him and not allowing them to break that tackle and then take it for, 10, 20 yards down the field. So the biggest thing is knock back up front. Defensive line got to be physical, get the knockback, but bring your feet through the tackles.
Eric, we're really seeing special teams play a big role here. Obviously, the kick return this past week, Valentino Ambrosio's done a pretty nice job since he's taken over the kicking duties for Rutgers. What are you looking at here from a special teams perspective for Rutgers?
Special teams are huge, important parts of the game where you can create splash plays, you can create change of momentum and field position. It's huge. On those kickoffs, being able to get down the field and cover down the field, get them inside their 25-yard line, make them drive, the entire length of the field, 80 yards. When you do punts, as we know, we got an All-American kicker on our side in Corsac. Him pitting people back inside the 10-5-yard line, that's huge. But those kickoff returns and those punt returns that Rutgers have been able to create, those are the splash plays that just change everything. And we saw it this past weekend. We saw what it did to a team. It was Rutgers scores, Purdue answers back, and then Rutgers on a kickoff return takes it back for a touchdown, and everything, all the momentum changes in the game. If the Scarlet Knights can continue to have splash plays like that, not everyone's going to go to the house, but even a blocked punt, blocked field goal, you take it back for a touchdown, just changes everything.
Well, we're looking forward to it. It is a noon kick on Saturday on Fox Sports 1, and also, of course, on the Rutgers Sports Network presented by RWJ Barnabas Health. It'll be myself, Ray Lucas, Eric with the call, along with Mark Malusis and Julian Penix-Odrick beginning the coverage with the pregame show at 3 o'clock. Eve, we'll talk to you on Saturday. Looking forward to it.
So am I. I can't wait, baby. I can't wait.
Rutgers and Penn State, Saturday at noon. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's edition of the Rutgers Football Podcast, presented by RWJ Barnabas Health, the official healthcare provider of Rutgers Athletics.